Do you have did you have a favorite going in?
Well, I think you got to. I mean, Zach Wilson's a really good player. He won last year.
Beat Vinny.
Beat Vinny. So I think going in, Zach's probably seeded one, and I mean Nolan's a very good player. And you saw what Charlie and Russin did, teamwork and perseverance and desire, and but I was in. We had 8 guys to start, and they're all really good players.
Yeah.
That just shows the hand-eye coordination of these guys, man, and their competitiveness and their hands, their athleticism, their eyesight, all these things that go into being good players. It translates into other stuff. In this case, ping pong. But that was great.
Got a little heated. Charlie and Nolan.
Got a little contentious, didn't it? It got a little bit of gamesmanship and a little bit of emotion. Yeah, that's good stuff. That was great. I wish, last year we had, the entire organization witness it, if you recall. But today the minor league players are off. So that would have been cool to have all 200, 250, like everybody here to watch that. But that was fun. That was good. Good match too. It was great. Competitive. Very competitive.
I know you made some moves today, including Brandon Rogers.
Right. And Garrett Hampson.
Right.
Jordan Patterson and Jan Vasquez.
Thank you.
Yes.
Speaking of Rogers, I talked to him. I talked to some other guys about him. What are your impressions?
Did you talk to Rogers today?
I did.
Okay.
And
After he was made aware of his fate?
all the hugs and everything, yes.
Okay.
What are your impressions of him after his first big league game?
I think my takeaway is that, this was a great experience for him, and I can see why, he's being talked about, outside of our organization and inside our organization. He's got a skill set that I think hopefully will play in the big leagues. But the thing that that I told him, that there's some room to grow there, and there's some things that he has to take care of in player development to become the player that we think he can become. But in the batter's box, it's a good swing. There's some thunder in the bat. But self-admittedly, he knows that there's some things that he has to clean up as far as plate discipline, controlling the strike zone, and on defense, some fundamental things that he and Stu and the other infield guys worked on as far as his footwork, his feet, some plays that he has to maintain fundamentals on throwing action. But he's a fine player. He has a chance to be a good one.
When as a pitcher you've worked on things all spring to define them and then be able to go out like Craig did last night?
That was a big step. I think, Trace, I don't know whether I mentioned it publicly, but, I think I mentioned it to you and Thomas maybe when, no, this was a few days ago about, what I look for the last couple weeks, right? When guys they have their sort of deliveries in order, their arm is, where it needs to be, their pitch count is building. Starters. And I look for, certain things the last 10 days as opposed to the first week of the spring training. And last night was, great to see from John. We saw command of the fastball. We saw the 3 secondary pitches come into play. He threw the ball great. And that's a great confidence builder for John, and us to see that. But, that's why a lot of times I don't, there's certain things I want to see the first couple weeks. There's things I want to see in the middle 2 weeks, and there's things I want to see the last 2 weeks. And that's what I like to see. And I like to see the same thing from Tyler today.
He said the big thing he felt was he's really comfortable with the curveball now.
Yeah, I think that's that should be a big piece of his arsenal, just because when we talk about velocity separation, that's the pitch that does it for him. The slider is is hot. You know, it's 89, 90. The fastball's 93, 4, 5. Slider has great action, but it's still hard. And, you know, hitters can get ready for hard. You know, they can get ready for hard. So he needs something softer, and that's where the curve comes into play. Even the change can be a little hot sometimes, too.
I know last year a couple of times, early in a game, you have 0-2, and you drop that curveball. You don't have to
Yeah.
throw it again
Yeah.
after that, right?
It's got good, yeah. And think about it, once you start, if you throw it and you land it for strikes, you know, the other 8 hitters see it too. So it's always in the back of their mind. It isn't just that one guy, it's the guy on deck, the guy in the hole, you know, because they're talking about, was that a curveball? Ooh, you know, so that's what you want.
We were up in the booth last night watching, and he had that pitch, we couldn't figure out what it was. And he called it his down slider, and he said it wasn't his biggest sweeping slider.
Right.
He has
Well,
shorter.
yeah, he's got, yeah,
right?
John has the ability to manipulate the slider a little, you know, ever so slightly, where it's, you know, he can just get it going down just a little bit. He can make the break a little bigger. He could throw it on the outside corner to a left-handed hitter. So he's got good manual dexterity with, you know, with the slider.
And he said that was a pitch that he hasn't really been able to command very much. He said he
Yeah.
worked on it really hard this last week in bullpen, and it showed last
Yeah,
night.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
the bullpen is possibly could be the highest paid in baseball. I know it's a long season, that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of
Right.
things. How refreshing is it to come into this spring training though with a staff that can potentially go further than last year's staff?
Well, you know, we've put a lot of focus on that. I think organizationally, even before I got here, you know, there's quite a bit of emphasis put on the pitching side, in player development, and now I think we're to the point now where we should really see that foundation of pitching, you know, continue to grow and stay stabilized, hopefully for the next number of years. Every year is different. But going into this year, you know, the makeup of our bullpen is such where we feel confident about it based on the experience and the track record of all these guys. Davis, Shaw, Dunn, McGee, Ottavino, Russin. You know, these guys are experienced pitchers who have a track record of performance. So, you know, that should show up. The starters are a year older. You know, there's a group of them who aren't what I classify as young pitchers anymore. That's John, Anderson, and Bettis. You know, those guys are into the middle parts of their careers. They should, you know, be a spot where they should become dependable. You know, Freeland, Sensatella, Marquez, I'll throw in Hoffman, Almonte, even though, you know, Hoffman's hurt, Almonte, Howard, you know, these guys with, you know, limited service time. But they've been in and around the big leagues for a while. They should be better too. So we feel good about that, you know, that we're not, you know, we're developing them in different ways than we did last year. This should be more, you know, the development is more about performance and not about, you know, delivery issues and, you know, getting over all the big leagues and rookie mistakes. Those things should be out the window.
How much does mixing in the new veterans really help for the development of this?
Well, I think that, you know, anytime you add voices and good voices, it helps. You know, I think Ionette is a great example of a new voice. I think Davis is a great teammate. I think Shaw's a great teammate. You know, those guys coming over here will be a big part of our team.
You mentioned Ionetta. What have you seen from him getting accustomed to this staff and in influencing them?
Well, you know, he's a veteran catcher who's been, you know, through, you know, a couple different organizations, great pitching staffs. He's been with, you know, a lot of different managers and pitching coaches, and from that you gain experience because you hear, you know, a lot of different philosophies. You hear a lot of different coaching techniques, and you get a lot of information. And I'm sure he's processed that over the years, and he's bringing that to us. Even in a short period of time, he's made you know, some great suggestions and brought new ideas that we've taken into play already here in spring training. I think he's a calming influence on our pitchers because of, I think, who he is personally and what he brings on the field and in the clubhouse and off the field. He's been great. So, and I'm looking forward to watching him play. You know, I hope that you know, he continues on his performance like he did last year. He had a solid year last year overall to help that Diamondback group get to where they got.
Obviously, he was here before, and
Right.
you weren't. So I don't know how familiar you were with him during that time, or if you talked to anyone within the organization. But has he changed? And has any?
I don't know whether he's changed. I think he's still the same guy, but he's much more experienced and much more wiser, and that just comes with growing up. He's gotten older, and like I said, I'm sure he's put to use all the experience that he's got from his time with the Angels, his time with the Mariners, his time with the Diamondbacks, his initial time with the Rockies, and he's the player he is now because of where he's been, and that's a good thing.
But to follow up on the bullpen, the ensemble that you have now, do you think you'll turn to the bullpen sooner than you would have in years past because of like the young
right?
staff?
I think each you'll hear me say this often. Each game is different. We have a bullpen that we feel comfortable with, and I think we have guys down there who are very unselfish and can pitch from anywhere from the 6th inning on. Right, you can interchange McGee and Ottavino and Shaw and Dunn, and hopefully get to the end game with Davis. I would hope that our starting pitchers are to a point now where they feel that they can take the game into the 7th or even throw pitches in the 8th inning. That's my hope. I mean, you don't see it a lot these days, but I know that if that happens, it keeps our bullpen fresher. It keeps those appearances down. It keeps those innings down as the season goes. That only helps you late in the year to keep a bullpen fresh. But our pitchers are starting pitchers. Understand the expectation that I have for them about logging innings, making their starts, going to the post. That's what we need. We don't need to, go down into AAA. We don't need to go into AA. Hopefully we don't need to go to the trade market. All those things, that's our goal from a starting pitcher staff, and they know it.
So it's safe to say that kind of the new philosophy is if you can get a starter through a lineup 3 times that you turn to the bullpen, you're not going to follow that at all.
No, I mean, every game's different. I'm not going to have a hard, fast rule there. I don't think you watch the game, and I think often the game tells you, the moves to make. Along with what happened the night before, what happened their last start, moving forward, how their arm. There's so many factors that go into each game 162 times as you go through a season. Things get a little bit different now at the end of the year, but we're not even there yet. We're not even at the start of the year. But, the expectation is for these guys to grab as many outs as possible, to do their job, to have pitches thrown in the 6th, 7th inning, to be able to throw 100, 110, 115 pitches, and still be productive, still get outs.
I spoke with Hoffman this morning about the 25th anniversary of the Rockies, and he said that it's cool to think about, in the grand scheme of things, compared to organizations like the Red Sox, who he grew up watching, that the Rockies aren't even that old. So he said it's cool to think about putting a foundation in place for this team, and to put a foundation in place about what the Rockies organization is in the future. What do you think that's a cool way to think about the 25th anniversary?
I think what he's thinking. What I think is I think we are proud of this organization. I think Jeff, being relatively new to it, is proud of it. I think he's excited to be here. I think the guys who've preceded us laid a very good foundation of Rockies baseball. An exciting brand of baseball going back to the Blake Street Bombers, and then the Helton and Tulo and that group. And this is a new group, but I think all these guys who put on this uniform are very proud of it. And I think organizationally, the people who work in it, from Dick and Charlie on down, are very proud of this organization. That's a very good thing to think about in the present. And I think that that continued tradition that we're building is a good one. And I think outside of this organization, how we're looked at is very positive. All right, guys.
Bye.